Hello everybody, this is Stephen Whitfield with Drilling Contractor here at the 2023 IADC Advanced Rig Technology Conference in Amsterdam. And with me right now is a guy who just spoke at this conference, Reza Kazmi, Head of Drilling and Wells at Rystad Energy. He spoke a little bit about drilling market, E&Ps, where we're going to see everything going in the near and long-term future. We're going to talk a little bit about that here today. So Reza, thank you so much for joining me.
It's a pleasure.
So, in your presentation at the conference, you brought up something that I've heard a few Rystad analysts say in recent years about this energy trilemma, sort of the intersection between affordability, sustainability, and security with energy. You know, you talked about how we're kind of trying to get to that intersection, how important it is to sort of be in the middle of that triangle, as you will. How close are we to being in the center of that? What steps do we need to take to get there? Why is it important that we get there?
Yes, thank you very much. I guess what we need to do as an industry is to converge at the center of this sustainability, affordability, and energy security. So far, what we have been doing, we have been more reactive to the situation. You know, back in 2015, we were focusing mainly on sustainability. Then 21, focus shifted to affordability because of the increasing cost of energy. And then right now, the focus is on security. So based on the circumstances, we're kind of shifting priorities, over time. But what's important is to have to be in the middle, to make sure the energy is affordable for the people, it's secure, and of course it's clean, it's sustainable, it can last for longer. And what we need to do is, and we have been discussing this over the past couple of days, is digitalization and technology is one of the key enablers to achieve that, whether we are moving into new energy space or whether we are making oil and gas operations more competitive and more sustainable. So technology, I believe, would be one key enabler. The other is people, so that we have the right talent which can really lead us the way into the future. So I guess, there are so many other factors, but I would personally think that technology and people, that could certainly be the key in achieving that.
I'll ask a little bit about digitalization in a minute here, but I want to get to your thoughts on E&P capex. You had said that we're seeing a little bit of an increase, but you also pointed out the role of inflation in sort of the rise in spending that we've seen. So talk a little bit about that relationship. How much has inflation affected E&P capex, and is that something that the industry should be concerned about?
No, absolutely. Inflation has been a concern over the past couple of years, especially. And when we see there was an increase in investments, over the past year or so, but 40% of that was actually driven by inflation. And that was due to increased cost of labor, material, equipment, everything else. So overall, I think inflation has been a concern, but what we see now is the impact is cooling off. We are seeing some slowdown in activity. We are seeing more, stability on the supply side. So in the short to medium term, we expect it to not at least get worse. Now, the growth in expenditures from E&Ps will be more and more organic as we head into the future, rather than essentially driven by inflation, what we saw, in 2022.
So you had also talked a little bit about drilling activity. Of course, this is a conference of drilling contractors, so I'm sure that our audience would love to know a little bit more about this. You had said that we might see some drop-off in drilling activity post-2025. What do you think are some of the reasons behind that?
Yeah, so one of the reasons behind that is the demand for oil and gas, especially oil, which we expect will gradually decline post-2026 as well. So that will of course reduce the total investments that we expect in the oil and gas business, leading to reduced activity. But that's not the only reason. The other is, of course, we're also drilling more efficient and productive wells. So we don't necessarily need to drill the same amount of wells to produce those volumes or to be more cost effective. So I guess it's a combination of reduced demand for oil that is driving this decline, and at the same time, more productive and cost-efficient wells that we're drilling now.
So let me get into a couple of other points that you brought up here that might be of interest. One is geothermal. Of course, low carbon investments are things that this sector, this industry is really kind of looking at. And for drilling contractors, geothermal obviously represents sort of a bridge of some ways, using the existing rig equipment to sort of get into this low carbon space. So what kind of opportunities do you think that geothermal will provide for the oilfield services sector?
No, there is a big overlap with the geothermal industry, and that's what I touched upon today as well. We can certainly leverage our experience, our competence, our achievements from the oil and gas business and apply them to geothermal. It's essentially drilling. It's subsurface related. It's managing your production. It's drilling more safely, drilling in a cost-effective manner. So I think the drilling operation is exactly the same. Either you hit an oil reservoir or you produce water. That's the only thing which changes. So the most part it's the same, and that is where we think, as a drilling industry and a drilling community, we can certainly contribute towards the expansion and scale up of geothermal in the future.
I guess as long as it puts a hole in the ground for something, a drilling contractor will find some use for it or something like that. Okay, let me get to the digitalization piece. Now, you just mentioned it a little bit earlier here, but one of the things that you touched on in your presentation was also cost savings that we might see with digitalization. I'm sure that's music to any company's ears. So talk a little bit about that. How does digitalization impact cost? What kind of savings could we potentially see as that becomes more and more adopted within the industry?
No, I think digitalization has a big impact on the cost savings. We can, take smaller examples. Of course, with the more digital solutions, you can drill faster. You can drill more precisely into your reservoir, right, which increases your, your production, for example. So either you save time on drilling, or you produce more barrels. So in both cases, you get better returns, right? So in that sense, it's certainly cost savings from both the drilling and production standpoint. And there could be so many other examples if you talk about the broader industry, whether you're using robots for maintenance or inspection activities. You can predict, maintenance activities on these platforms and producing fields. Rather than being reactive, we can be more proactive. That could save massive costs as well. So we can narrate so many examples, from the technical side, which will contribute towards these cost savings. But some of these, for example, increased ROPs, reducing NPDs specifically within the drilling, I think they can really contribute towards these cost savings for the drilling community and for the E&Ps.
Well, Reza, thank you so much for letting us in a little bit on some of the insight that you and Rystad have on where the markets are going. Rystad's always got some good info for everybody. So thanks again. We appreciate it.
Thank you. It was a pleasure speaking to you.
And thank you for visiting Drilling Contractor.